This is a painting of Schenectady in the 1690s. And we know a bit about the way it looked. This painting is based on archaeology and some surveys that were done of the city at that time. But this is at the end of our presentation, Charlie and I decided that we would like to say something about Dutch influence after the arrival of the English. Now this is the 1690s. The English have been here since the 1660s, and yet this community of Schenectady still has a distinctly Dutch look about it. It's something that doesn't go away, and it continues on into the next century. This is the Winnie House. This is a house that was built south of Albany near Selkirk, New York. It's been restored. It looks very much like this today, but it was built in the 1720s. And again, it's an obviously Dutch house. So we see it in the architecture, we see it in the government, we see it in the customs, we see it in the practice of religion, we see it in the foods. The Dutch had a profound effect on New York that is still with us today.
After the Revolution, the French Revolution, many of the nobility fled France and settled in western New York. And they were going up the Mohawk River, very close to where Schenectady is, where that painting depicted. And they put ashore to talk to the people working in the fields and along the way. And to a man they said, we're not English, we're Dutch. They all refused to acknowledge that they were English, and this would have been in the 1790s already.
Then you should probably mention that this publicity room now in the
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
rooms of the Metropolitan Museum.
there were, the Winnies arrived very early. The patriarch of the family came in the 1630s. And Charlie can probably tell you a little bit more about how the patroonship worked and how the tenant-farmer structure worked. But the patriarch of the family, Peter the Elder, built a small, he asked for permission from the patroon to farm the land along the Hudson near Castleton, New York, but on the west side of the river. And he built a small farm. And as he became an older man and he had raised his family, his eldest son was given the opportunity to continue the farm. So he built a second-generation farmhouse inland from the original farm that was on the river, about a quarter of a mile or so. And he lived his life and had his family. And his eldest son, who wanted to continue on, built this house. This is the third-generation Winnie house. It starts with Peter, his son is Daniel, his son is Peter. So this is third generation Peter again. He raises his family in this house. His oldest son he names Daniel and builds his farmhouse about a quarter of a mile from this one. This one is restored, looks like this. It's in a beautiful setting down in a meadow all by itself. You could be looking back into the 18th century. That's how it looks today. The fourth generation house, people actually lost track of the fact that it was a Winnie house. It fell into disrepair, it was added on to, the architecture was obliterated, at least on the outside. But on the inside, it was still a Dutch house. And when the owner of the property started dismantling the building about 3 years ago, a contractor who worked on historical buildings noticed the frame of this house and realized immediately that this was an old Dutch farmhouse. He bought it, the remains of it. He took it apart. He didn't know what he was going to do with it. The Metropolitan Museum at that time was looking for an exhibit for the remodeled American wing. They bought the remains of the fourth generation Winnie house, and it has now been reconstructed on the third floor of the American wing, and I did a painting for them that depicts that fourth generation house. I don't have it in the presentation today, but if you want to see it, go to the Met, and you'll have to push some buttons in their digital presentation, but the painting is there.